And then also just the Android thing and how we're so afraid of machines, but yet we're the ones creating them.
Mm-hmm.
And we're always creating them to be like humans. And then they what do? They act like humans and they kill us.
Perhaps I could use this as an excuse to go to those far-off planets with little polka-dotted people if necessary, and be able to talk about love, war, nature, God, sex, all those things that go to make up the excitement of the human condition.
I'm Captain James Kirk.
Spock.
Your move, Captain. Jim Kirk of the Enterprise.
What's going on?
I'm James Kirk. These people are my friends and my shipmates. Leave my crew alone.
Out of the question.
How about that?
James Kirk.
It fits like a glove, Captain.
Oh, the bonehead ideas.
Gentlemen, I'm Captain James Kirk. Get out of my chair. Get out of it now.
My greetings and felicitations, Captain. So good of you and your officers to, drop in. Absolutely smashing.
Hey everybody, welcome to Humanist Trek. It's a Star Trek podcast about the humanism in Star Trek. I'm Sarah Ray.
And I'm Allie Ashmead.
Our kids' school is doing stupid fundraisers. Did you have to do this?
When I was little?
Yeah,
I did. I was terrible at it, terribly shy, and that's hard.
We did those too. I can remember like being at the neighbor's house that my parents knew these people and I didn't know them. And then like we're sitting in the living room going through a little catalog of junk shit that nobody wants.
Yeah. I
hated that. It was awful. And the school that my kids were in Florida didn't do that. It like one fundraiser a year.
That's good.
And
What were they selling?
It wasn't even any of that.
Oh, okay.
It was they called it Rock a Walk. And it like you sponsor your kid and then that, the day of that event, the kids all walk the track.
Oh.
And every lap they get an ice pop.
Oh, cool.
This is like win, 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 win.
Yeah.
Essentially, you're donating money to your kid's classroom.
Right.
But then they make it this fun event for the kids to get out and get some exercise and,
I would like that better than selling some candy bars because we'd go to our grandma's house and guess what? My cousins are selling the same shit too.
Yep.
So like there's a lot of competition, number one. And plus, I just didn't like the pressure of having to sell.
Yeah.
And plus, I got to bring home a bunch of chocolate. I mean, you think I'm not going to eat that? Because I'm going to eat it.
As you know, I have been unemployed for a while now. And when I was looking at jobs, I see jobs like that. And I'm like, nope. Walking to
sales. Yeah.
Like,
hard coal sailing.
I'm going to go knock on people's doors and try to sell them a solar system. I can't do that.
No.
I can't do that kind of work.
Because I don't like to talk to those people.
I know. And that's why we have the sign we have out in front of our house.
Yeah. But what else is going on with the
these dumb fundraisers. So my kids are both doing fundraisers for their different schools. We've gotten like 3, I think, so far. 3 different like types of whatever ways to get your kid to sell shit to make money for the school.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm saying is fucking tax me more and pay for education.
Right.
Because there is a difference between like the upper and lower class, right? So like as a kid, I'm going to sell more shit if my parents are well off.
Yeah.
Because they're going to know other people that are rich. And then the poor kid like can't even buy one damn candy bar to get something. I hate them.
Yeah.
I hate these stupid things. Ask me to fund my kid's classroom. I will be happy to do it. Put it on my taxes.
And
whatever.
It's done.
Like done and done.
Yeah. Can't they distribute that money to the classrooms?
Mm-hmm. And my kid's not your employee. You are employing my child to sell candy bars to make you money.
Right. They're pimping out these kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I feel like
not paying them any kind of wages.
Right.
Not providing any kind of safe workspace. Maybe
they're trying. I'm not sure what the lesson is, if they are trying to teach them a life lesson. But
sometimes you have to do shit for money that you don't want to, like go to work every day at a shitty job that you hate. Is that what you're trying to teach me?
But are they not able to opt out at all?
Oh, we have opted out.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we don't do those. And
good.
One of them, of course, because they come with, little prizes and stuff at different, once you reach different levels. Again,
they're colorful and shiny, and it makes kids want them.
The kids who are well off will get all of them, and the poor kids will get none of them, which is horseshit. The only one that we've supported and will probably continue is the book fair.
Of course.
Right? Because you get something of value. You really get something of value.
Yeah, books.
A book.
Yeah.
Right? So like those ones, we will support those all day long. And I always loved the book fair. The book fair was so great.
I had my head stuck in a book all the time.
But also I recognize that like book fair is fun so in Florida we volunteered, and by we I mean mostly Becca, to do the book fair at our kids' school. And it's a K-8 school. Book fair is great, again, if you're well off. There are kids that come through and they can't afford a single book.
Right.
And there are kids that come through and they have... Mama gave them the last $4 they have, and the book they want is $5.
Right.
And you have to see like this when you're volunteering. People come in, these kids, and it just breaks your heart. Yeah. So most book fair people have like some, I'll buy you a book, pick one. Like, what do you want? I'll take care of you.
Yeah.
There's a compassion and empathy that we haven't had. I feel like it's getting worse here in this country.
Yeah. As the haves have more and the have-nots have less. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I don't know, like, the perfect way to fund education, right? Like, because even if you do it on my property taxes, again, the difference in...
Socioeconomic.
Yes.
Yeah. It's still... The difference is still there.
Yeah. So, are we basing that funding on our wealthier districts benefiting more than poor districts, and what do we have in place to balance that equity out?
Yeah, because if property taxes are based on the value of your house, and then lower values, obviously there's going to be less money going into that school district as opposed to someone like a few percentage of $1 million. That's a lot of money, and they're getting all of that. That's I don't know how to. How do you even begin to balance that?
Yeah, but take my money.
The gap,
I guess, is the bottom line. Like, don't make my kids do this shit. Take my money.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get to the episode that we came to discuss today. Then it is Star Trek, the original series, season 1, episode 8. What are little girls made of?
Sir, contact with an object. It's moving toward us. No visual contact yet.
Deflect towards full intensity.
Mr. Sulu, yes, Captain. Anything on your scanners?
It's coming at light speed.
Collision course. Visual contact.
Anything, over?
All wavelengths dominated by ionization effects, sir.
All engines full stop.
We're on approach to planet XO3. Nurse Chapel is on the bridge, and she and Kirk are discussing Roger Corby, her old fiancé. He hasn't checked in like 5 years and may or may not be alive on the planet. His last communication said something about underground caverns, but they sent a couple of search parties and they were unable to find him.
Right.
Spock gives us some stats about the planet, pretty much Earth-like, except that the temperatures are 100 below zero. Here we go, another freezing planet.
Frozen planet.
And the sun in this system is dying too, and the planet just keeps getting colder and colder. Maybe those planets are in the same system. And then Uhura suddenly gets an unexpected reply on the radio. It's Dr. Corby. He's alive and well. Corby and part of his party are still alive, having discovered underground ruins. Kirk's about to tell him that his old flame is aboard, and they're all ready to beam down, but Corby asks Kirk to come alone because they've made discoveries. He said they've made discoveries that may require an extraordinary decision by Kirk.
So
he really thinks a lot of himself.
Yeah. Now, I know the history for Corby was that he was like a legend at Starfleet Academy, and that his research and finding whatever findings he did revolutionized their immunization technologies. So, like, Kirk wants to meet the guy because he's like,
he looks up to him.
Yeah.
Chapel gets a chance to say hello here, and now Roger's really pleased to hear her voice. And so he agrees to let Kirk and Chapel come down together.
Right. But only those two.
I don't know if you caught this or not, but as they leave the bridge, Uhura and Chapel share this girl, I'm so excited for you moment.
I did.
Like kiss on the cheek.
I thought it was really sweet.
It was. I'm so glad I caught it because it's in the background.
Yeah.
You got to be, and it's just a quick pan by.
I was like, women supporting women. And I thought that I love that.
Right.
There's also, I don't know if you caught this, something else I noticed on the bridge, but there's, when they're getting news or they're talking to Corby, there's a man looks like he's in like a dressing gown or pajamas or something.
Oh, the jumpsuit guy.
Yeah, the jumpsuit guy.
Yeah.
And he's standing next to another black female officer on the bridge. I was like, and they're just standing there looking happy for Nurse Chapel. I just thought that was interesting. But like, I don't know who the fuck these people are. And you never see them again. But,
just some extras.
Yeah.
When they kissed on the cheek on the way by, I got to thinking, like, we all know that Star Trek made history with the first interracial kiss on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Why wasn't it this one? Is it because it was two women? Is it because it was platonic?
Yeah.
Is it because it wasn't on the lips?
I don't know. That is weird.
It's got to be a man and a woman to count, apparently.
Well, it's probably because it wasn't sexual. Yeah, that's probably what it was.
Because it was platonic.
Yeah. But I don't know. That's a good point.
Down on the planet, the wide shot here looked like something out of National Geographic Channel.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go to the close-up, and it's like, oh, it's the foam rocks. They painted them white.
Yes. It's totally. But this set was actually really cool because there was like more of it.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I'm digging this. I'm digging the set because they're like underground. So it's made to look like caves and shit.
Right.
And we won't even talk about the stalactites and stalagmites.
Yes, we will. It is in my notes.
Just for the listeners, like Sarah and I do not watch this together. We watch it separately, but we both have like these, we think alike.
Yeah.
So I know what you're thinking.
Our notes are the same.
Yep.
So they beam in next to this window looking outside, but Corby's nowhere to be found. Kirk radios Spock and asks for a couple of red shirts just in case. And Kirk's reassuring Chapel, like, everything's probably fine. It may have just taken him longer to get here than he thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe he caught some traffic on the interstate. The red shirts beam in. We have Matthews and Rayburn.
Yep.
So Kirk, Chapel, and Matthews descend down into this cavern, and Chapel slips and knocks a rock down. And it bangs against the wall for a really long time.
And good catch by Kirk.
So,
he got her like just in time.
So you know that this is like a really deep whatever it is.
Yeah. And so he does tell the other one, he tells Rayburn to stay behind at the entrance.
Yeah. Leaving a red shirt alone is never a good idea.
No.
Either.
Or taking one with you isn't even a good idea.
Being a red shirt is not a great idea.
No.
The score in this episode I thought was really, really fantastic. We get some like really tense music building throughout this entire sequence, and then it ends when that bright light comes on.
Yep.
And the music swells, and then this figure steps in front of the light. That whole sequence of music I thought was just really, really good.
It's definitely getting a lot better. And I think the reason is like this episode is actually number 10 in production.
Okay.
So I think they had worked some shit out by then. Because I thought this whole episode was excellent.
It was really good. So first Chapel thinks that this shadowy figure is Corby, but it turns out to be Brown, one of Corby's assistants.
Mm-hmm. And which is his nickname is Brownie.
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 We hear some screams from above. Matthews fell from a high place.
Oh my God! They've killed
Matthews.
You bastards!
And Brown tells us that the hole is bottomless.
Yep.
Okay, I have at least one problem with this.
Mm-hmm.
If the hole is bottomless, it would have to come out the other side of the planet, right?
Right. I suppose. No, it would go into the molten core.
There's then that's the bottom.
Okay.
How can a thing be bottomless?
But I'm assuming we're assuming Earth, but this is a different planet, so we don't know.
Things might work differently.
Yeah.
Then.
That's a good point. I don't know.
Yeah, so if it did go all the way through, would Matthews just keep falling through the hole and then come out the other side?
It could.
Just be floating around.
But then with gravity would work differently. I think he would just float in the middle.
It would just hold him near the core. Yeah.
Anyway, I know, tangent. But when he falls, they show a very large, menacing figure creeping away.
It's Lurch.
It is. It's Lurch. I loved him. Theodore Crawford Cassidy. He's the actor that played Lurch from Addams Family. Everybody knows. Surely everyone knows that, but maybe not, depending on how old our listeners are. But he was 6'9", and he has this deep voice, and he was in a lot of stuff. He got jobs just because of that. He had a condition called acromegaly.
Okay.
Which is responsible for his height and his size and his facial structure and his deep voice. He also played in several other... You'll see him again in Star Trek because he...
Really?
Yeah. He played the Gorn.
What?
Yeah. He was the Gorn.
Oh, no shit.
Yep.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. So, and a couple of other roles as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see him again.
He's a real that guy.
Yeah. Kind of like Doug Jones is Saru because he's so tall and he's got a very unique... physique that, who else can play that role?
So Lurch is creeping up around the top of this shaft, and we get an early indication something else isn't quite right here. Brown doesn't seem to recognize Chapel at first. So Kirk checks in with Rayburn, tells him to radio the Enterprise and have a security detail ready to come down if they lose communication, but Lurch is sneaking up behind Rayburn and takes him out.
Oh my God! They've killed
Rayburn.
you bastards!
He puts his whole hand
There's a whole hand
over his head, his face. So yeah, poor Rayburn. I mean, that was quick though too. Those red shirts didn't even last like 15 minutes into the episode.
Brown explains to Kirk and Chapel that the inhabitants of the world moved underground. Dr. Corby had a theory that freedom of movement and choice produced the human spirit. And this planet's culture proved his theory when they moved from the light of the overworld into the darkness of the underworld. They replaced freedom, he says, with a mechanistic culture.
Which means robots.
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 So they go into a room and a beautiful hot brunette babe here, Andrea, comes in. I would cosplay her too if not for my...
That outfit was fantastic.
If not for my body image issues.
Oh, well, me too. I got rolls. I can't wear that. I mean, I could, but I don't want to do that to people.
Can I go back in time to when I was 20?
Right.
Maybe, and do it then?
But then it's weird because when I was 20, I still didn't like my body and I wouldn't have worn it. And I wish I'd give me anything to have that body now. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I felt very strongly about my body at 20.
Yeah.
Oof. It was definitely the wrong one.
Nurse Chapel, the way she was looking at, like, who the fuck is this bitch? Like, who is she?
And then Corby comes in a few beats later, and he has this, like, reunion makeout session with Chapel.
It was, like, tongue, and it was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. And Brown mentions that they'd lost a red shirt, and Corby is apologetic, but when Kirk tries to radio Rayburn, there's no reply.
Right.
And so the protocol would be that Kirk radio the Enterprise, but Brown pulls a ray gun, and Andrea moves in on Kirk, but he pulls her in and grabs the taser from her hand. It looked like a little TV remote control or a taser or something.
Or one of those, like, tiny little flip phones. But yeah. Corby ordered Andrea to take the communicator from. Like, what is this little girl? Not a little girl, but she's tiny compared to Kirk. She's not dressed in any type of security uniform. That is not a security uniform. Like, why would you order this woman? Anyway.
And then Kirk does this weird tuck and roll move.
Oh, I wrote it.
For some reason.
I'm like, this makes no sense. They put it in here and it makes no sense. So as Andrea's trying to take the communicator from Kirk, he grabs her and uses her as a shield and inches over to the door. Then next thing you know, he pushes her away, and then he does a tuck and a roll, and he's got like a whole 5 to 6 seconds. Nothing, nobody's shooting at him. It looks ridiculous.
Yep.
And then he goes behind the desk.
Behind a table.
Yeah. And then tells Brown to drop it. Brownie doesn't drop it. And he shoots Brownie.
Oh my God! They've killed
Mechanical Dr. Brown.
You bastards!
The door opens behind Kirk. And a very
Lurch comes in and
tosses Kirk like a 12-year-old child.
Yeah, like a 7th grade bully holding a kid up against the lockers.
I know, right? So then Nurse Chapel and Dr. Corby look back and they see Brownie laying there with a hole in his stomach and all kinds of like circuits poking out and burning.
Brown wasn't really brown after all. Kirk radios the Enterprise. Spock was getting worried since they hadn't checked in, and we hear Kirk telling him, no, everything's fine. But then the camera cuts to Kirk on the planet, and he's not speaking. Lurch is holding the communicator, doing a Kirk impression.
And let me just say, he did an excellent job at the lip sync.
Yeah.
I'm like, excellent.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing to, especially with 1960s technology.
Yeah.
That's a difficult thing to nail the timing on.
He nailed it.
He did do a great job.
Nailed it. As Kirk, he's telling Spock, he's like, we'll return within 48 hours, and Dr. Corby's specimen will require special packing. But Spock just, I don't know. Spock just knows everything. He's like, he just feels like something's off. He's like, are you feeling all right? You sound tired or something. I don't know. And he's like, yep, I'm good.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Kirk out.
So Lurch does some more impressions, but when he does Christine's voice, Corby gets kind of pissed off, and he's like, you do not mock her. You do not harm her. Mm-hmm. And then Kirk throws in, and you're not to disobey her orders. And he agrees.
He's like, yeah,
you have
don't
to
disobey
obey her orders.
I feel like Kirk was so ahead of the game here in this episode, because in the other previous episodes, they were just bumbling through and he wasn't wise or thinking like a captain. And here he's
coming into
calculating and for sure.
So we find out here that Lurch was programmed to protect Corby's experiments. And so he killed both of the red shirts. Against Corby's wishes, he claims. Lurch says that he was left there by the old ones. So he's an OG android.
OG!
Much more complex than Brown was. It's at this point Kirk's heard enough to know that Corby's dangerous, and he tries to make a run for the door, but Lurch grabs him, lifts him up, and like fucking WWF flings him across the room.
Yeah, and this dude is 6'9". I mean, that's pretty big.
Meanwhile, Andrea comes in to chat with Chapel. She doesn't understand why Christine is unhappy. Christine's worried about Kirk. And then in comes Corby, Kirk, and Lurch. Corby says nobody else will be harmed. He just needs time to explain. Andrea's also an android. Chapel's got some major jealousy going on here. But Corby says, look, she's just a computer, emotionless. And to demonstrate that, he has Andrea kiss Kirk and then slap him. See, no emotion.
Yeah.
But Kirk's not convinced yet. If they just respond to programming, why did Brown try to shoot him? And why did Lurch kill the red shirts even though he was programmed not to?
Right.
And Corby says, okay, fine, I'll answer all your questions now.
Just give me 24 hours. In every show like that has an android, they always say, oh, they don't have any feelings.
Right.
Then they somehow evolve. I don't know, because it's funny that these people in these shows that want to make an android want to have their cake and eat it too. They want a human-like person, but not human.
Right. The next scene was confusing to me because we cut from this to they go into the room where they're making the androids, and he takes Chapel with him into that room. And like in a few beats, we find that Kirk's on this table.
Right.
But going into this scene, you didn't know that. You didn't know that Kirk had been
strapped down to
the table or incapacitated or whatever.
Right. The table is divided. The first thing we see is like Lurch putting this
big foam
body shape, human shaped, but it's like a blank nothing, into the other side of the table.
This was an interesting set choice because, like, you could have done, Frankenstein style, had the two beds next to each other with wires going between them and stuff. And, like, they could have done that. Like, this was a choice.
And it was just a spinning table.
It was, yeah.
And no wires connected. Good point. I'm like, how?
What does that do? It's a centrifuge, right? Isn't that what they're called?
Yeah.
Like,
you spin it and it separates.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
Or what's the ride at the?
I love that fucking ride. I love that ride.
Oh, I hate that ride.
I love it. That was one of my favorite. Yes, and you're stuck to the wall.
No.
And I remember wearing earrings, and my earrings are pulling like long earrings. And I'm like, this is awesome. But like,
I hated that ride.
But put me on like a roller coaster, and I'll still go, but I might get sick. But I love the spinning. I love spinning.
That's crazy. Andrea twists some knobs.
Andrea. Well.
The table starts turning, and there we find out it's Kirk lying on the table. After the commercial, the table starts spinning real fast. And eventually they sped up the film so fast that like even with the little strap thing they had over that body would have been flying out of there.
Yeah. It looked like he was naked. I don't know. Maybe he had on
Speedos. Well, any opportunity to get Bill out of his shirt,
Because, I mean, he had a smooth chest. I don't know if he shaved it, but he was always like completely smooth.
Yeah. So Kirk on one side, foam body on the other, and it just spins faster and faster and faster until the foam body turns into another Kirk.
Dun, dun, dun.
Corby challenges Chapel to pick out the real Kirk, and she can't tell them apart. Corby says once the mental patterns are copied over, then the android could even replace Kirk.
Yep.
Kirk's lying on the table listening to all of this, of course, and he starts muttering this, "Mind your own business, Mr. Spock. I'm sick of your half-breed interference."
Yeah. I knew exactly what he was doing then. This is him again thinking ahead of, and I love it. I love it. It doesn't keep him out of trouble, but at least he's thinking, because the other previous episodes, they seem to just be so naive. And I'm like, all right, I see you, Kirk.
Well, we recently had an episode with two very different versions of Kirk, right? The evil and the good. And then this one, you have, again,
completely.
two Kirks that are essentially identical, except for this moment where he hears that he's going to have his memory transferred into the android, that he's like, I'm going to say this thing so that it transfers.
Imprint it over. Because that's something he would never say.
Never. Chapel asks Kirk if he's all right. And he's like, yeah, I'm fine, whatever. And then Corby spins the table around and says, now meet an android.
This is how we make an android.
This is how we do it. This is how we do
it. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
Later, Andrea seats Chapel at a table where she serves some food, and Kirk comes in. The entire scene, I kept thinking, wait, is this the real Kirk?
Yeah.
Or is this the android Kirk?
Yeah. Because he's dressed in the Starfleet uniform.
Right.
So I thought it was Kirk. I didn't even think anything about it.
They have a conversation about Corby, like, is he sane? And Chapel insists that he is Corby and he is sane. Kirk asks if he gave her a direct order to betray him. Would she? And she's like, please don't put me in that situation.
Yeah. She'd rather die, she said.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's not long before my suspicions are confirmed. Corby enters with the real Kirk now.
And that's when I was like, shit. They got me. They got me.
Now they've dressed so the android is in the Starfleet uniform and Kirk is wearing that blue and green outfit that all of the people on this planet wear.
Yeah.
We get a really fun, like, Kirk versus Kirk conversation here that I thought was executed pretty well.
It's kind of petty. He's like, well, you'll never know what the food tastes like. He's like, because I don't need to eat. I won't never be hungry. He's like, and then the real Kirk said something else, and he's like, well, at least I won't starve. And I'm like, okay, petty much?
Corby dismisses Android Kirk and says, you haven't guessed the rest? And then he goes into an evil monologue about what he really wants to do is to start transferring people's whole consciousnesses into android bodies, essentially giving humans immortality.
See, the evil people always just be talking too much. Just shut the fuck up. Telling us your evil plan. Thanks. Okay. Now we need to kill you.
So he goes on, like, we could eliminate jealousy and greed and hate, no disease, no deformities. And Kirk's not buying it, though. And as Corby is asking for help to get to another planet that has the right resources, Kirk starts discreetly, like, he reaches down to the side of his chair.
Like untying something on the chair that's holding the legs together. He's always just this scheming. Good for you. Good for you, Kirk.
So Corby says he created Android Kirk to impress Kirk, not replace him.
Mm-hmm.
And Kirk pounces on him, pulling that cord around
He's trying
Corby's
to choke
throat.
him. Yeah.
Lurch jumps in to try to save him, but Corby tells him to stand down. And Kirk uses Corby like a shield, like a body shield, backing up to the door. And as he exits, he lets go of Corby and kind of pushes him back into the room.
Yep.
And he races into the caverns. Corby instructs Lurch to protect, and Lurch goes after Kirk. Chapel checks on Roger and then follows Lurch, instructing him to stop. She's like, remember, Corby said you have to obey me. You have to obey
what I'm saying. Yep. So, yeah, they're running through the caverns and playing the little hide and seek thing among the stalactites and stalagmites.
Anybody that's watched Star Trek will know what happens next. If you're new to the series, welcome. Kirk reaches up and grabs a hold of this stalactite and kind of gives it a shake.
Yep.
And it breaks free.
It's big.
And it's big.
Oh, my.
It's holding a giant penis.
Yes. Exactly like a penis. He's hiding behind a wall, gripping this penis, and Lurch comes in.
He's like using Chapel voice.
Yeah.
Throwing his voice.
I think Kirk still is kind of knows that's not him. But he says, I'm over here. Is that you, Christine, or something? And gets Lurch to come over. And he hits him with the big penis.
But Lurch easily like deflects this, and he grabs a hold of the penis too. And they struggle for a bit until Kirk ends up hanging from a rock, like with his legs dangling down in that bottomless pit.
Right.
And Lurch stands over him menacingly, and we get suspense music to commercial. After the commercial, Lurch's face gets very confused looking.
Yeah.
And
like he's trying to decide something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
very contemplative, I guess. And he reaches down and picks up Kirk and pulls him out of the pit. Back on the Enterprise, Android Kirk walks through a door and goes past Spock, and Spock calls out for him. But Kirk's ignoring him, and he enters his quarters, and Spock's like hot on his heels. There's a bit of character work here that lets us as the audience know, and hopefully Spock, know that this isn't Kirk.
Right.
Remember on the spinny table when Kirk was muttering shit about Spock being an annoying half-breed? Here, Kirk's getting some stuff from a cabinet, and when Spock's like, wait, you're going back down with the command packet?
Right.
And Kirk responds angrily, mind your own business, Mr. Spock. I'm sick of your half-breed interference. And that was the message.
Yep. But then he follows that up with, why do you look so angry, Spock? Because it's like, because he didn't understand that was something that would make him angry. He just, when the personality imprint or transfer happened, it was, I guess it was a genius move by Kirk to do that.
Yeah. To embed this like false belief.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, Spock, like, you can't fool him. You cannot fool that man.
Nope.
I want a dude like Spock, man.
Yeah.
He's just, yeah.
Down on the planet, Android Kirk has a suitable planet to relocate this operation to, but he says he felt quite at home on the Enterprise. Andrea comes into real Kirk's room, and Kirk commands her to kiss him. And then she tries to also slap him. But he blocks her, grabs her so hard you can see finger marks on her skin. Did you notice this?
No.
Hold on, I took a screenshot.
Oh, wow.
When he pulls his hand away, there is like a handprint in this poor girl's skin. He was holding her.
Either that she's really red. I mean, dang.
Yeah.
Poor girl. So, but he grabs her and he lays one on her. Like this is like classic Kirk, womanizing Kirk. And he lays one on her, and she's shook.
Yeah. She eventually stops him and she's like, I'm not programmed for you.
Yeah. But she was obviously, she was feeling something.
Mm-hmm.
She was confused.
Yeah, there was definitely emotion happening there.
Yep.
As she tries to leave again, Kirk grabs her arm and brushes the hair from her face. And he's like, what's the matter? Are you confused?
Mm-hmm.
He tries to follow her into the hall, but Lurch shoves him back in. Was that emotion we saw, Lurch? Lurch says, to maintain your existence would be illogical, and Kirk counters, why? But Lurch can't figure that out, can't solve that problem.
Yep.
So Kirk asks what happened to the old ones and suggests that perhaps the creation outgrew the creator?
Mm-hmm.
Logical machines demanding order, frustrated by the emotional feeling, illogical mortals. And Lurch says, yeah, the old ones became fearful of them and started turning them off.
So we killed them.
And Kirk says, but isn't Corby doing the very same thing to you right now?
Mm-hmm.
So they go back and forth a little bit here, and it shakes out this equation from Lurch's memory banks. Survival, he says. Survival must cancel out programming.
Mm-hmm.
And Kirk turns Lurch against Corby here. He says, it's logic. You can't protect someone who's trying to destroy you. So he puts him into kind of a logic loop.
Yep. Does not compute. We know what happens when a blue screen of death. We know what happens when that.
I'm so glad those don't come nearly as frequently as they did in 1993
Windows 95
or whatever. Yeah,
Windows 95 and or
before that. Yeah. In comes Corby, and Lurch is like, you did this. You brought these people here.
Mm-hmm.
We'd ridden ourselves of this biological plague, but you brought it back. And he's like moving towards Corby when Corby pulls out a phaser and obliterates Lurch.
Lurch is gone.
Oh my God! They've killed
Lurch.
You bastards!
Kirby leads Kirk and Chapel down the hall at gunpoint, and as they enter the room, Kirk does that thing where you come in the room and you whip around and you try to get your attacker or whatever. But he gets pushed away, and now we see the truth. Corby is an android too. He's got a piece of his skin that's like
it's hanging off of his hand and
revealing all that tech underneath. So Corby tries to convince Chapel that it's still him inside. He had no choice. He was freezing to death. It was a survival thing.
Yeah.
And he says like I'm the same as before, maybe even better. So then we get into that like improving on the species thing that we've talked about a few times in this season so far.
But it usually involves like taking out emotion.
Mm-hmm.
But then that's part of being human.
Yeah.
And when you are trying to copy someone's brain, like our emotions, that's where all that comes from.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really in your chest. Although, you know what? Like we always think, oh, I feel it here in your chest. It's all actually happening in your head, in your brain.
A panel on the wall starts beeping. There's somebody at the outer junction. Kirk assumes it's Spock, having received his message.
Mm-hmm.
Corby orders Andrea to get a weapon and protect.
Mm-hmm.
And when she comes out of the room, there's Kirk. she says, I will kiss you.
And he's like, nope. That's a lot. That would be illogical.
Yeah.
And she's like,
so
fine.
She just
she blows him away.
Oh my God! They've killed
an android.
Captain Kirk.
You bastards!
Meanwhile, Corby is still explaining that he transferred his whole consciousness into this android body. Andrea walks in saying that Kirk has somehow freed himself. But there stands Kirk.
Oops.
He's standing there with Chapel, and she's like, oh, shit, I killed Android Kirk by mistake.
Damn.
So Kirk tries to do another one of those little logic fights where, like, you killed Android Kirk just like you killed Android Lurch.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this the perfect people? Is this the perfect world you claim to be wanting?
Is this what you want?
Corby starts stuttering like Napster on Windows 98 trying to download a song. Oh, those were the days. And he pleads with Christine, but she's like, everything you've done has proved this isn't you.
Right.
Not who you really are, not who I know who you were.
Right.
Kirk tells him to prove his humanity by handing over the gun, which he eventually does. Takes a minute. But he's like shutting down now. And Kirk orders Andrea to hand over the gun, but she's like, no, protect. And she moves towards Corby, talking about protecting him, loving him, kissing him.
But she's an android, and she's not even supposed to have all that emotion, but she was in love with him.
Yeah.
She was in love with Corby.
He's like, no, you can't love. You're not human. And as she kisses him, he pulls the trigger on the gun, and they fry them both.
Yep, gone, like suicide.
Oh my God, they've killed
Andrea and Dr. Corby.
you bastards!
Chapel is hit with some hard grief here too.
Oh, she like someone
loss.
like literally punched her in the stomach. That was some good acting. I felt it. I fucking felt that. She was punched
right?
in the
Like
gut.
it wasn't Dr. Corby, but it was Dr. Corby, but she still had all those feelings for him.
Yeah. But he disappeared. So when someone disappears, you never really grieve.
Right.
And this was the death.
Hard
finally.
to find closure.
Yeah. So Spock ends up coming in with the security force and fucking everyone's gone because everyone's gone except Kirk and Nurse Chapel. And when Spock asks about Dr. Corby's whereabouts, Kirk does that look up past the camera and he's like, Dr. Corby was never here.
In the button on the episode, we're on the bridge. Kirk and Chapel are chatting. Chapel says, thank you for letting me make the decision. I'm certain I'm doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. And as she walks away, Kirk tells Spock she's staying with the ship.
Yay.
So I guess there was a moment there where that was in question.
Yeah.
We didn't get to see that. That would have been fun to see.
Yeah.
Spock tells Kirk he was dismayed by the use of the term half-breed. Finally, somebody in this show is saying it.
Yeah. He said it was a primitive, I forget what he said. It was
unsophisticated expression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. See, they're learning. Just like we're doing this podcast and evolving.
Right.
Like Star Trek, they had to start somewhere, and then they're evolving and learning as they go, and I'm loving it.
So I pulled out a couple of things here. Freedom of movement and choice produced the human spirit was a quote in this episode that I thought was really trying to, like, they started out trying to make that the point of the episode, that you would kind of carry that thought with you throughout.
Yep. That was the whole reason or the downfall of that civilization and the rise of the machine, rise of the machines.
Survival must cancel out programming.
Mm.
And to me, I started thinking, like, is it enough to simply exist?
Yeah.
You're programmed to exist. Or even to survive. Like, what about thriving?
Yeah.
We're programmed from the youngest of ages to comply with instructions, ultimately, in this capitalist hellscape, to enter the workforce and be productive.
Yeah.
We spend our entire lives being prepared to become workers in the machine.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't there more to living than that?
Yep, there is.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing now that people are wanting more than just a 9-to-5 job and working for the man. And they want fulfillment. They want mental health awareness, because like that fucking matters.
Mm-hmm.
And I do love the way that Gene brings this stuff to the forefront.
Yeah.
And then also just the android thing and how we're so afraid of machines, but yet we're the ones creating them, and we're always creating them to be like humans, and then they what do? They act like humans and they kill us.
Yeah.
So it's actually pretty genius.
We love, since the earliest of technology, I guess we've started this fascination with like the idea of building robots that take us over, rise up against us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that comes back in sci-fi a lot. It's a thing that over the years we have thought about and questioned and played what if with that topic.
We've seen so many iterations of this, and I'm like, I think I've seen it all. I don't know how they can do, it's another Android movie or another Android show. I can't be impressed, but then they find a way to like do another spin on it.
Yeah. Yeah. This one was a very different spin.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was good.
Well, then now it's time to honor the dead.
It's dead, Jim.
We are assembled here today to pay final respects to our honored dead.
Oh, goodness. We had a pretty high body count, this one. But, yes, let's talk about the dead. May they all rest in peace. Rayburn and Matthews, may they rest in peace. Beaming down to the planet with a red uniform fleece, Rayburn was tossed into a bottomless chasm, and Matthews was choked by the android Rook until he spasmed. But then we have Dr. Brown, Corby's faithful assistant. Kirk blasted a hole in him, and although he was an android, he wasn't phaser resistant. Kirk plays some mind games with Rook and helps him to see that Corby is not all he's cracked up to be. Rook turns on Corby, and Corby, fearing for his life, shoots Rook with a phaser and puts out his light. Andrea iced poor android Kirk with a phaser, and he was only a few hours old. If only he'd kissed her, he'd still be alive, truth be told.
Love this.
So sad about Andrea, the pretty android who took Christine's man. She died in a passionate embrace with Corby, with a phaser in her hand. But Dr. Corby was the one who pulled the trigger, as if having the last say. But that's okay. He was an android anyway. May they all rest in peace.
I love that. That's wonderful. I love the little rhyme sing-song honoring of the dead.
Yeah, I thought I would add a little to
Kick
that.
it up a notch.
Yeah.
I assume you're loitering around here to learn what efficiency rating I plan to give your cadets.
Trainees, to the briefing room. Is that all you gotta say? What about my performance?
Aren't you dead?
I don't believe this was a fair test of my command abilities. There was no way to win.
There's no correct resolution. It's a test of character.
Now, what is that supposed to mean?
I am understandably curious.
May I ask you a question?
Who's been holding up the damn elevator?
All right, so let's bring Becca back in for the exciting answer to last week's Starfleet Academy Cadet Challenge. Last time on Humanist Trek, you asked us,
during filming of this episode, what was happening behind the scenes that should have been completed well before filming started?
I don't even remember what I guessed.
I don't either. I'm sure it was wrong, but I don't remember what
I don't
said.
have anything for you. I don't think you had a guess.
Was it maybe like a union contract or something?
Or some kind of construction?
Yeah. I didn't type any guesses, which is weird because usually I do.
That is weird. I'll have to go back and listen. All right, well, put us out of our misery. What's the answer?
The script for this episode was in such bad shape that Gene Roddenberry had to make revisions simultaneously while filming the episode. And for some scenes, shooting had to wait until new pages arrived.
Incorrect.
Oh, wow.
Damn. I think I've heard that story before. I didn't know it was this episode.
Huh. I'm trying to think where there was one part in there where Andrea comes in and Christine says, "Where's Kirk?" And then next thing you know, Kirk's in the room. It was a little bit disconnected, but good one.
What was the answer?
Oh my God, are you that ADD?
Oh my God. If the script wasn't done.
The script wasn't done, that's right.
The script wasn't done, so like maybe they were just making shit up as they went along.
Wow.
Okay. Let's get the question then for our next week's episode, Miri, which I don't remember anything about.
Oh, okay, good. You're not going to know any of these answers then.
Great.
This is a 3-point answer.
No. We got points?
Yes.
This is getting complicated.
And I'm going to tell you why, because you have the opportunity to earn up to 3 points for this answer. I'm going to change things up. Okay. It's okay. You'll understand why when I ask the question. This episode has 3 separate connections to the Andy Griffith Show. What are they?
Oh, for fuck's sake. I don't know.
I've seen it. I've seen this episode.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while.
I know there's one actor. I don't know. There's maybe one actor. There's a bunch of kids. Maybe some part of the cast.
Yeah.
3 connections to the Andy Griffith Show.
Maybe one of the sets. Did I read something about that? Maybe one of the sets was used.
That's
a connection.
It's got to be one of the actors, one of the sets.
Yeah.
And then something else?
Guess you'll have to wait and find out.
Damn you. All right. Well, if you want to play along, no cheating.
Stumped again.
Don't Google. Set a course for your nearest social media app and post your answer. Use the hashtag Starfleet Challenge. We'll pick out one of our favorites to be the winner and give you a highly coveted promotion. Garrett Wong, unfortunately, that makes you ineligible to win. That's a Voyager joke. You wouldn't get it.
Of course.
All right. Well, now we want to thank our patrons.
Let's get right to business.
Fine, I'm authorized to pay an equitable price. Federation has invested a great deal of money in our training. They're about due for a small return.
Listen, we pay our percentages. We're entitled to a little service for our money, huh?
Is this the way your citizens do business? Their right of petition?
They pay their percentages and the boss takes care of them.
Is there anything else?
Thank you, patrons.
Thank you, patrons. This is one of the best ways to support us is to give us some money. It helps pay the bills. We have storage and hosting fees and all of that kind of stuff like any other podcast. So that helps us with the nuts and bolts. And we're looking at doing some travel in the upcoming year, going to some conventions and stuff. So you'll be supporting that as well. And you can go to patreon.com/humanistrek, pledge as little as $3 a month, and it will go a long way to supporting this wonderful show that we love to do for you.
Yep.
There are a couple of free ways you can help us out too, if you like. Wherever you listen to the show, go on there and give us a rating and a review. We're going to pick out some of those and talk about them on the show and feature them on the website. And of course, tell your friends. Share out the episodes.
Yes.
Let them know we're here.
There's nerds out there like you. We're here.
Yeah. Open the hailing frequencies. Next time on Humanist Trek, Season 1, Episode 9, Miri, a strange group of children are discovered on an Earth-like planet. I don't remember this one at all.
No, me either.
I have no... I know that there is a popularity to this episode.
There is?
Yeah, apparently. But I don't know why, and I don't remember any of the details.
I don't remember a single thing.
Well, that'll be fun then. Join us next week as we review Miri.
Live long and prosper.
Kapla!
Humanist Trek is available wherever you replicate your podcasts. Follow us on all the social medias at Humanist Trek. Become a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Trek. Open hailing frequencies to podcast@humanisttrek.com and visit our website, humanisttrek.com. Humanist Trek is a production of Sarah Austin Media.